Hi, I'm Shelby Williams with Plano City Council, and here's tonight's Plano City Council recap, August 24th, 2020. As such, I would be remiss if I didn't first wish my youngest daughter, Katherine, a very happy 4th birthday. Love you, Katherine. Now moving on to the preliminary open meeting. We first designated Councilmember Grady as the city's nominee to the National League of Cities Board of Directors. So this is a process that goes through all the cities across America that are National League of Cities, NLC constituents, and to appoint their board of directors. So good luck to Councilmember Grady. The next, we discussed the new infusion of CARES Act money. So Collin County has proposed and will manage a county-wide program for small business relief. Rather than doing it on a city or tri-city basis like we did last time, we're going to participate in the county-wide program. Now here's the deal. Small businesses with some exclusions who make up to $5 million of revenue and have up to 100 employees may qualify for up to $25,000 in CARES grants. Now, obviously, demand exceeds supply. So this is likely going to go forward on a lottery system. We don't yet know when applications will be accepted. If you have received a CARES grant in the past for your small business, but for less than $25,000, you can still apply for the balance. Let's say you got $10,000. You can still apply to get up to $15,000 in additional funding. So I'll keep everybody posted when that information is available, and I'll let you know where and how you can apply. Next, we discussed the campaign finance proposal that Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Riccadelli and I brought before council to ask for a discussion. That first discussion was tonight in the preliminary open meeting. We reviewed that most of the major cities in Texas have campaign finance ordinances. Right now in Plano, we have none. Plano City Council candidates and mayoral candidates can accept more money than could be given to congressional candidates. So council determined that staff is going to research a proposed ordinance. We're going to have a continuing discussion on this later to actually iron out the ramifications of it. That's going to be at the second meeting in September, the second council meeting in September. After which staff will bring back a proposed ordinance for us to vote on at the first meeting in October. Now, Mayor Pro Tem Prince brought up a good point, and really there are two aims behind that could be had behind a campaign finance ordinance, and they're not mutually exclusive. One is to level the playing field so that people who are largely self-funded don't necessarily get the run of the show with their money. And the second is to prevent undue influence from being exerted on Plano's elections and especially council members. Now, it's worth noting that last year in the 2019 election in Plano, $618,000 was raised amongst candidates and brought to bear across candidates in the election. Almost 75% of that, 73% to be precise, came from outside of Plano. So that belies the question. Who do we want to have the real influence in Plano? An inordinate amount of that money came from PACs as well. So there are basically three areas in which we could enact campaign finance, and these aren't mutually exclusive either. One is in a flat dollar amount restriction, like you can't accept X dollars. Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Riccadelli and I opened the bidding at $500. Can't accept more than $500 from any source. The details still have to be worked out. Nothing's been voted on, but that's one leg of the stool. The second is the geographic source of the money. So can residents from outside Plano contribute to candidates in Plano elections, Plano municipal elections? The third leg of the stool would be a recusal mechanism. If you receive X dollars or percent of your campaign financing over Y period of time, then you must recuse yourself if that dollar amount or percentage of your money is represented by interested parties in a given vote. We're going to discuss this again in a month at the second meeting in September, and we're going to iron out the details, and then we should have an ordinance to vote for in early October. Next, we move on to the regular agenda, and we had a proclamation. September 2020 was designated as Hunger Action Month. During the pandemic, we've seen a 43% increase in food insecurity. We've been working with the North Texas Food Bank to make sure that people's needs are met in the pandemic and throughout the year, throughout all years. And Superintendent Bonzer from the Plano Independent School District gave a report that the school district, the Plano ISD, has served 160,000 meals during the summer, which was a huge lift and of such importance to our community. So thank you. We pulled consent item K at Mayor Pro Tem Prince's request. This was to increase, a proposal to increase the penalties for Class C misdemeanors for repeat and habitual offenders. Ultimately, this item passed 7-0 after a robust conversation. But the idea here is that for Class C misdemeanors, currently, for the most part, somebody could keep violating 1,000 times and the penalty would be the same each and every time. And so we have modified that to provide at least a little bit more of a deterrence for, in the case of truly repeat and habitual offenders. Item number 1 was a proposed 97-unit, 3-story independent senior living facility on the northwest side of Premier and Enterprise. This is very close to I-75. And as you can imagine, much of the concern about this hinged on the noise levels from 75. The applicant has undertaken several engineering modifications to the development in order to mitigate the noise. And they're building it such that the pool and the courtyard are facing away from 75, and went as far as to guarantee live on recording in the council meeting that the noise levels will be below the permitted threshold for the community. And that's important. And look, it's not exactly a secret that I have concerns about the ratio of rental to ownership properties in Plano, because we're about 40% rental, only 60% ownership. The more ownership you have in a community, the more stable a community you promote. These would be rental units. They would be affordable rental units for seniors. This is an entirely senior living community. And despite the, maybe I should say because of the ratio of rental to ownership options and multifamily to single family, one of the big lacks we have seen and just disappearing categories is senior living. Now, not every senior wants to live in a complex like this, in a multifamily complex or in a rental unit. Many do, many don't. And we need to, for our senior community, we need to ensure a good mix and a viable number of options, both single family, multifamily, rental, and ownership, so that the people who may have lived in Plano all their lives and would like to remain in Plano, but they need to downsize, they have suitable options. They are our people. So there would be 27 out of 97 full market rate units, and the remainder would be applicable for a housing tax credit from the state of Texas to have reduced rents. And they have a certain number based on certain age groups. And it is right next to a church. And one of the aspects we saw about this in the meeting is that one of the units will be given at a reduced rate to a couple from the church, and they would be advocates for new residents in the community, in the senior living community, to plug people in and get them connected to what's going on in the community. It's less than a mile away from the Sam Johnson Rec/Senior Center. This item passed 7-0. We moved on to item 2, which was to amend the zoning at the southwest corner of Parker and Townbluff to add uses for personal service shop and to permit studios for a photographer, a musician, or an artist. Could be a starving artist or a well-fed artist. This is primarily to bring the property into compliance. No additional height was permitted. This item passed 7-0. And the final item on this evening's agenda is the creation of a neighborhood conservation overlay district. Now, there was, again, a robust conversation about this. It was proposed originally from the Heritage Commission, but it's not necessarily a heritage district. And this, I think, created a lot of confusion during the meeting. There is a trigger as well, numerous requirements in order to qualify as a neighborhood conservation overlay district, one of which is that the area has to be 35 years or older on average. The process, and this was my biggest support mechanism or aspect, was that it would be entirely neighborhood driven. So a neighborhood, if they wanted to qualify as a neighborhood conservation overlay district, then if 60% of the property owners or the property owners of 60% of the land area of the proposed district petitions, then they can go through the zoning process to be designated. And what this does, if it's designated, it does not prevent redevelopment, it does not preserve structures, it preserves the character of that district and prevents development that is incompatible with the defined character. The character could be totally different, one neighborhood conservation overlay district to the next, and it is for residential areas, not for commercial. One area could say we have a unique character. We have all two-story pink pyramid homes, and we want to preserve that unique character of our district. A different district on the other side of Plano or even nearby could say we have a historical feel, but we don't necessarily need to preserve historical structures because there aren't really any historical structures. It's just got that feel to it, but we want to preserve that feel even if there's new development or redevelopment. That's what it's all about. This is not necessarily driven by heritage or historical properties or districts. That was just one of the aspects that was used to identify. This could be just unique character, like the pink pyramid homes, and have nothing to do with historical significance. That item passed 7-0 as well. So to cap this off, I just want to wish my little girl Katherine a happy birthday once again. Love you, sweetheart. I'm Shelby Williams for Plano City Council. See you next time. Thanks a lot. Good night.